Hi gang, Rob here. It's the evening of 2 August 2015 and I want to make a video for you guys tonight sort of in response to some requests actually. This is going to kind of be the state of my Chris Reeve Knives collection. I just kind of wanted to show you what we have in the collection and in the order that I purchased them, and give you some kind of rationale or logic, or the thinking at least behind why I bought the Chris Reeve knives that I did when I bought them. This one, you guys who have been around the channel for a while will recognize this is my first Sebenza, and it is a large Sebenza 21, plain titanium handle, clip point blade, blue hardware. We would sort of think of this one as the standard Sebenza. In my mind, it was a great blade wipe. It was a great choice for my first Sebenza. Now, I didn't really think, okay, when I bought it, okay, this is going to be my first of lots of Chris Reeve knives. This was a grail knife for me, and if you watch some of the early videos on my channel, you might hear me say things like, I can never imagine spending $410 for a knife. But I did, and this is the one I bought. So I wanted to buy a large Sebenza 21 with a clip point blade, and I wanted to do it as economically as possible. And I also wanted what I perceived to be the classic of classics, the bar by which other folding tactical knives are measured, this Sebenza. Plain titanium handle, large 21 clip. And I love this knife, as you guys know. But after I had it for a little while, I thought, you know, I should really have a small Sebenza. And about the time I started thinking about small Sebenzas, I had a conversation, I think in a comment thread for one of my videos with Patrick, Aiden's daddy, on YouTube, and SharpDad33 on Instagram. And he just told me right out of the blue one day, if you want to get the ultimate EDC knife, period, get a small Sebenza 21 Insingo blade with Micarta inlays. And I thought about it, and I really had never considered getting an inlaid Sebenza. And I had seen videos on Insingo blades, and I think as I was mulling over that purchase, I actually got an Insingo in for sharpening, and it was a large one, but I liked the blade shape much more in person than I did in pictures. So I ordered this knife from Chris Reeve, and you guys may have remembered the video on this knife. This was the 11th left-handed Micarta inlaid Insingo bladed small Sebenza Chris Reeve had ever made. And it was a long time between the time I ordered it and the time I actually got it. It can be 6 months to a year, guys, just for all you lefties out there who want a specific Chris Reeve knife and can't find it in stock anywhere. You can call Heather or Angela at Chris Reeve Knives, order anything they make left-handed, and you know, next time they run left-handed knives, yours will be in the batch. So I ordered this one, and by the way, Patrick was right. What a superb little utility knife for everyday carry. I think it's about 2.5 ounces. Ergos are still plenty good. For a handle that's barely 4 inches long, in a saber grip, you do get all 4 fingers on the knife. Certainly in that pinch grip or the one-all's pub samurai grip. Certainly a 4-finger knife. Great draw cut grip. You're never going to probably use this for a tactical weapon, but the reverse grip does work. And just a super little utility blade. So this was on order for a long time, as I said. In the meantime, I wanted that small Chris Reeve knife so bad, and I believe on the Cove on USN, this became available. This is the Chris Reeve Mnandi, and it's left-handed, and it has Gabon ebony inlays. And I'm a huge fan of ebony. Now this is smaller than a small Sebenza, so let's kind of give you a side-by-side on that. We'll line these up so the butts are in the same place, and you can see the small Sebenza, definitely a larger knife than an Mnandi. That might give you a little better perspective, and we have a perspective error. So overall length about 1/2 inch, and if we line up the front of the frames, about 1/4 inch in extra blade length. I think this is 2.94 inch blade length. This is 2.75. And if you notice, the construction of the Mnandi and the small Sebenza is very similar. We are missing this fastener. So the stop pin in the small Sebenza is fastened with a pivot barrel and a male screw. In the Mnandi, it's a floating shouldered stop pin, so the knife is not restrained in this area, but it's a lot smaller and designed for a lot lighter duty work, so that extra support really isn't needed. Of course, the big, and it is a bushing pivot, Chris Reeve bushing pivot, 2 solid washers, no perforations. So you get that same silky smooth Chris Reeve action. But it's really a two-handed knife, isn't it? Because there's no thumb stud, and this nail scallop, I guess you could call it a nail nick, it's kind of an odd shape, in the new style Mnandi is not sharp enough to snag your skin to make it a one-handed opener. The only way you can open it one-handed is to sort of let the handle fall into your hand and then pinch the blade while pulling back on the handle with your ring finger, and reposition your hand and sweep it open. Like that. Now, this is a super handsome knife. Just look at that pocket clip. Very intricately machined titanium clip. This is a left-handed frame lock, as you can see. All my knives, all my Chris Reeve knives are lefty. But the clip is reversible, tip up, left or right. So a left-handed person can buy an Mnandi and easily manipulate it with the offhand for closing. And opening, it doesn't make any difference. If my right hand worked as well as my left, I could open it one-handed. And I think this knife, guys, is under 2 ounces. I didn't really set out to buy an Mnandi, frankly. I was jonesing for another Chris Reeve knife while I was waiting for my small Sebenza to get made, and I bought the Mnandi. And I'm glad I did. You guys know this falls into my fusion folder class, somewhere between a modern folder and a traditional. This one is a fusion knife because it has a nail nick and you open it with 2 hands. That's what gives it the traditional aspect. And of course the titanium frame lock or Reeve integral lock makes it modern. And then one day a customer of mine sent me an Umnumzaan to carry for a couple weeks, sharpen and review. And it was a right-handed Umnumzaan. Again, I hadn't set out to buy one, but when I sent it back home, I found this Umnumzaan, a lefty, and I think I found this one on Sooner State Knives, something like that. Of course, the Umnumzaan with only 2 fasteners, one at the pivot, one at the butt. The stop pins are the thumb lugs. They lock up against the titanium frame, so no stop pin in the handle is necessary. This uses a very robust but screw adjustable pivot. like the Sebenza 25 and the, what is it, the tie spine, the Grant and Gavin Hawk knife. So no bushing pivot on the Umnumzaan. We have the large hollow or high hollow grind and the thick blade stock that later showed up in the Sebenza 25. And we've got this really cool sort of Sog Bowie-like clip point blade, but then we finish it off with this gorgeous harpoon. And one thing I like about the Umnumzaan over the Sebenza, yeah, there is one thing I like better. Take a look at the hollow grinds. Notice how the Sebenza grind is straight. Look at the line of demarcation between the flats and the hollow grind. It is a straight line, which makes the knife thicken at the tip as it sweeps up. The hollow grind on the Umnumzaan sweeps up. So that hollow grind sort of follows the belly of the blade, which gives the Umnum a finer tip and a more consistent width in the secondary bevel grind when you sharpen it. If you notice, this 21 sort of, I guess, has my worst edge geometry as far as the thickness or the width of that secondary bevel. I learned some things after this one, but it's got a thicker tip. I think that shot really shows it well. So the Umnumzaan was the fourth purchase, the third to arrive. And of course, the other difference between this and a Sebenza, besides the pivot, is the ceramic ball, which I don't think I'll be able to show you, which serves as the detent ball and the lock interface. It's mounted right on the corner of the lock bar. So when you close an Umnumzaan, you'll not find that second bump. Once you bring the blade so it supports the lock bar, it rides on that ceramic ball, and there's no second catch in that blade. And that ceramic ball detent made it into the Sebenza 25 as well. So that was number 4/3, and here is number 2/4. And just another point about this small Sebenza. Guys, if you're going to use the knife every day, because it does have a diminutive handle, I really strongly suggest Micarta inlays. I think an uninlayed, plain-handled small Sebenza, what are they running now, guys? 350, 365, something like that. I think 425 with Micarta, and well worth it. I believe it's 350 and 425. Well worth that extra $75 if you're really going to use the knife. The grip that affords, I really prefer. So I like that Micarta inlay so much, I thought, you know, I'd really kind of like to not use this knife all the time because it is my first one. I kind of want to keep it nice. So I want to order an EDC large Sebenza. So Chris Reeve knife number 5, you guessed it, large 21, clip point, Micarta inlay. And this knife, I don't know, it might be my favorite action on any Sebenza. And as you guys know, I tune all my Sebenza actions by polishing washers, not only for smoothness but also for dimension. And I tune them all so that when you drop the blade down on the detent ball, there's no side-to-side play, but when you remove the lock bar totally from the blade, it drops freely. And if you get that right, with just the right amount of lock bar tension and a very smooth, large offside washer, whoops, you get a knife that deploys about like a ZT 0550. And I think you guys all know how those work very well. And I love this knife. I really, really do. big knife, substantial in hand. The micarta inlays do not add any weight. Although they are inlaid, they are proud of the handle. But because they weigh less than titanium, there can be more physical dimension with the same weight. So still weighs 4.5 ounces. So this was sort of my ultimate user large Sebenza. But last year I thought, you know, all these get used, and you know, you can see we got snail trails and corner wear and, you know, honest Sebenza wear. But I thought, you know, I really want one of these knives that's special, that I'm just going to keep in the safe. So I ordered this one. You guys have seen it in a video. We call her Grace. This is my large 21 box Elder Burl inlay, clip point blade, silver hardware. Normally the box Elder Burl inlay is going to come with gold. I really didn't want my gold hardware ever to look like that blue thumb stud. So when I ordered this left-handed box Elder Burl inlay large 21, I ordered it with silver hardware. And I think it looks just fine. And if you guys remember my video about this last Christmas, you know why I am absolutely gaga for these inlays. They are my life. My life was pretty dark for most of my adult life. And then, by the blood of Christ, by saving faith, by God's grace, in Him as my Lord and Savior, I came into light. The dark burl and that red streak, and then the light burl just blew me away, and it still does. Now when you get a wood inlaid Sebenza in a clip point blade, you're also going to get what they call the polished finish on the blade. So you've got the normal, beautifully smooth Chris Reeve stonewash on the flats, and then they call it a polished hollow grind. I would call it a satin finish. And they start with a regular finished blade, I believe, because the polished hollow grind Chris Reeve knives are much thinner behind the edge than the stonewash blades are. In fact, this is an unsharpened, by me, Sebenza. It's the only Chris Reeve knife that I own that I haven't sharpened. And it is a, yeah, I do that with my Chris Reeve knives. This one needs to be clean. Been sitting in the safe getting all gunky. This is the only one I own that actually cut phone book paper or Nacho Shooter Supply catalog paper out of the box. Doesn't need to be sharpened and probably never will be. So this is my Safe Queen Sebenza. And no collection of Chris Reeve knives would be complete if it didn't total 7 knives. That's God's number for perfection, by the way. And I think this little Chris Reeve knife collection might be as close to that as we get on Earth. Well, I thought the small Insingo Micarta was such a great utility knife. I thought, you know, number 7 really should be a large 21 Micarta inlaid Insingo. And believe it or not, this knife has action equal to my clip point Micarta. The Insingo took a lot less work to get there. It was kind of almost that good right out of the box. Just got this one last week. The Insingo blade, not only is it generally a little more thinly ground than the clip points, certainly a little finer tip. It's a great slicing food preparation knife, a great letter opener. Could you use this for defense in a pinch? You bet you could. Notice the swedge. You could scrape paint with that swedge just like you can with the harpoon on the Umnumzaan. So that kind of completes the collection. I don't know, will there be a next Chris Reeve knife? I imagine there will be, I just don't know what it is. I actually have toyed with the idea of a Sebenza 25, which, you guys know that if you ask me questions about the 25, it usually doesn't get the warmest answer from me. I think the bushing pivot makes a Sebenza, but I might order a 25 large lefty, which they do make now, with a carbon fiber show side scale. I really might. They all gonna fit? Yeah, there they are. All 7. Thought you'd like to see them and why I bought them, and you can feel free to comment and tell me I'm nuts and I have 7 Chris Reeve knives and I still don't have the right Sebenza. Of course, there's part of me that might think that's okay, I can always get more. Why do these knives exist in my possession? Well, you know why. Number 1, I love them. Number 2, you guys have made it possible through your sharpening business. You support this this hobby, this sickness, this addiction, whatever you'd like to call it. So thank you for that. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and all 7 of my CRKs are sharp.